Well, hi everyone and welcome to another one of our super exciting student interviews. We've got an amazing story to share with you here with Karry, and she'll explain more of that as we go on. It's an incredible adventure story, if you like, in terms of growth with business. Karry, having started off in quite a modest situation, but has now got to a much, much bigger stage. So, and both metaphorically as well as physically as well in terms of the stage. So before I steal any of your thunder, Karry, tell us a little bit more about you, where you're from and your business model and sort of clients that you serve.
Hi everyone. So my name's Karry. I'm based in Christchurch, New Zealand, so a little bit further away, I think, than most people with the NPE. And I run Altitude Pole and Fitness. So we're kind of a pole dance fitness studio, and then we also do supplementary classes around that. So our kind of core business is anything that's a little bit trendy, a little bit fun to do with fitness. We kind of like to make the focus more on getting our students' confidence up and making them really proud of what they can do rather than what they look like. So we don't focus on weight loss or anything around that. It's more learning some cool skills on the pole or the silks or the hoop, and just getting people a community that they can really thrive in and start feeling proud of themselves in. Very supportive kind of place. Oh,
I love it. And you've really got some clear target markets, don't you? And two is in terms of who is your ideal client. Share a little bit of that with us.
Yeah, so it's probably, with pole dancing, it's very much a female-dominated sport or industry, I guess. So definitely the way we've priced ourselves, we target those young professionals, so not necessarily students, probably from 25 to 35-year-old females. And that's quite an easy market to get in front of, which is quite useful with social media these days. So that's really handy for us. But there's also definitely a lot of older people that do it, and we're getting more guys into it. So some of the parkour people and the extreme sports, some snowboarding, they kind of join us more for the silks aspect, and then secretly transition to pole once they feel a bit more comfortable about it. But yeah, it's a wide market that we reach, but it's a very easy one to dominate and to target in terms of who it definitely attracts.
Oh, I love it. I love what you said there as well about being not only fun, but at building that sense of community and having, had some prior knowledge as to what you do and how you do it. That's really what you've been able to create, and the experience that your clients get is so supportive that even that in alone is worth them continuing to invest with you and continuing to get that support as part of that community, which is super powerful. So let's talk a little bit about where you were prior to NPE. So before you found us, talk to us about what the facility looked like then. How many team players did you have, and where were you at with the business at that stage?
Yeah, so it probably would have been about 3 years ago now. It might be going faster than I realised. But I basically had 2 studios myself, so one in Christchurch and one in Auckland North Shore. I had just had my first child and was basically running this hobby business because pole dancing is something that a lot of people are very passionate about, and I was very passionate about. And I knew how to teach pole and I could write really good curriculums. But in terms of running a business, I had no idea what I was doing. And the studio had all right numbers for students that we had in, but we didn't have any sort of membership system. It was a pay-as-you-go, casual, buy a 10-pack of classes kind of system. So I had no numbers to work off. I remember, signing up to NPE, and you guys made me fill out this form of how many leads do we get a month and how many members do we have, and I couldn't answer anything. So it was very inconsistent. While it was quite a successful studio in terms of its name in New Zealand, because we did quite well at competitions, with pole dance competitions, because we could teach our students well, there was no consistent income. I had a lot of instructors doing 1 or 2 hours each on top of their full-time jobs, and so they were doing it just for fun as well. So I couldn't really rely on them as much as I needed to. But I kind of just, it got to the point where I'd accepted that it was just something I was doing for fun, and I loved it. So I was kind of okay with not making money off it, but it was definitely getting to a point where I knew I couldn't continue forever like this, and something was going to give. I either had to make it work financially and make it worthwhile, and free up myself a bit, or it was going to suck out all of the joy and all of the passion that I had for pole, which would have been heartbreaking looking back at now. If I'd have got to that place, it would have really, ruined me.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be part of those early conversations that we had together, and I remember you explaining to me that since you had your child, that was really starting to happen for you. It was becoming a chore, and rather than a joy. And because there was no financial reward from it, there was sort of this growing feeling of just like, why am I even doing this? And it was a make or break at that time. So we spoke about it specifically then, and I know you talked about, well, do you even continue? I mean, you had thoughts at that stage of just pulling the plug altogether, right?
Yeah, well, it kind of got to that point. I knew that if I continued the way I was going, then it would just be something that I ended up hating, and I didn't really want to get to that point. And I guess, there was always the option of going back to a full-time job and, getting paid by someone else and no stress and money coming in. And that was kind of the choice I was facing, and giving it all up and all the years of hard work for, just a good ride, basically.
Yeah. Well, I know you spoke at the time as well that you were really passionate about helping people in the pole community, because even though it was even newer and is still relatively new, I guess, in terms of industry terms, one of the things that you recognized back then was just how empowering it was to be in a supportive and create a supportive environment, especially for that demographic who are often not really supported in other aspects of their lives. And you were passionate about doing that on a bigger scale, but you just couldn't seem to make it work beyond the two. And the thought of doing more was terrifying, because then it meant you doing more, right?
Yeah, I don't think I even considered that there might be a third or fourth at that stage. I think just being able to make two work would have been, the epitome of what I could have achieved back then. But yeah, it definitely is the kind of people we get in. It forms a really deep family at each studio, and you see it at all pole studios. It's definitely not just altitude. I think we've just identified that really well and worked on it until it's kind of systemized now, creating that community. But to shut down studios would have been heartbreaking for so many people. And you see so much how much it helps people, not just physically but mentally. And to be able to bring that to more people has been amazing. It's been such a good part of this whole journey.
Well, you've certainly been able to bring it to more people, that's for sure. And that's what I wanted to talk to. We talked about where you were and the stressful situation, new baby, things that, you're just running as a hobby, not making any money, losing your passion and feeling as if you're going to start to hate it soon. So where are you now? What does things look like from an altitude perspective, pardon the pun, right now?
Oh, completely different. And like I said, where we are now wasn't even part of the plan back when I joined MPE. When I joined, it was just to get two studios working in a way that I could live my life. So now we've got 6 locations around New Zealand. So I still own the first one and co-own the second one, and then the other 4 are franchises. About 8 months ago, maybe August last year, we launched our kind of franchise campaign. And it's really grown way faster than I would have expected. And I think my focus has changed from, like, originally, like we were saying, my focus was helping those students find themselves and grow into somebody they deserve to be. But then I started seeing what I'd got out of owning a studio and the lifestyle I have of having this business that I love to the core, and it actually does provide me with this amazing lifestyle. And I wanted to start providing that to people, because I knew so many people who either wanted to open a studio or had opened a studio, and they were in the same position as me. They were doing it for the love and just couldn't make it work and couldn't even give up their day jobs. So yeah, my focus has definitely switched to helping people have a business that serves them and that they are just incredibly passionate about. And so yeah, we're on to 6 locations, and we'll in June we're going to start the next round of looking for the next lot of people. We've got a couple more kind of lined up, and it's really exciting to kind of take that whole pole thing and move it in a different direction for me, and see a different side to it with the owners of studios now.
So and as I said at the start, this is an adventure story. You're sort of, the equivalent of the Lara Croft of the pole world, using that analogy.
That's awesome.
I mean, you haven't just done this without anything else happening in life either, right? Because with having your first child, what else has happened personally for you during the last sort of 3 and a bit years?
Yeah, so a year ago I had my second child, and I think that was definitely, I don't know if milestone is the right word, but an eye-opener, because when I joined MPA at that point, having a second child would have just been impossible, because I couldn't have taken the time off to run the business and have a second child. So being able to, have a second child and take that 3 months off when I had him, and the business not just sustained itself, but it actually continued to grow while I was doing nothing. And I managed to pass my government maternity leave on to my husband, so he had 3 months off paid as well. And it was amazing. And that's the kind of lifestyle that I want to pass on to other people, that this is possible. And then since then we've moved studios. So for my Christchurch studio, the original, we moved into a new location because we outgrew the old one. We hit capacity, and I was just going to go double in size to like a big 2-room studio, and then walked into this place and it was 4 times as big, and it was a big scary decision, and like, again, nothing I planned for, but I saw it and I was like, yes, let's do it. So opened up this new location that's 4 times bigger than my old one. And within a year, we'd hit capacity there as well. And we're sitting at capacity at that one as well now. So there's definitely been a lot going on. It's been an adventure, a really cool one.
And I mean, it's incredible to look at it, because we're talking a really short space of time here, right? It's 3.5 years, and not quite. And you've gone from having 2, which were essentially hobbies, that were stressful hobbies at that as well, because you had all the usual dramas with staff and with clients and with marketing and with sales and business management that anyone has anyway. Feeling as if you were going to really lose your passion for it and end up hating it. And now you're in a situation where you're not only living your passion, but you're also able to create a lifestyle for yourself, and you're now doing that with the people who are investing with an Altitude franchise too, which is super exciting, and it's incredible what you've been able to achieve. Now, I did want to talk to you about some of the challenges, because I know that you've had them along the way. What would you say in those, since joining with us and working through it? And I know you do love a challenge as well, and we've done that repeatedly with you, is to continue to challenge you to think outside the initial plan because of your skills and dedication to it. What have been some of the biggest challenges for you that you've faced, Karry, and share what that's been like for you?
I think for me personally, it was always just my time management. So with 1 kid and now 2 kids, and a big part of moving forwards with this lifestyle was finding my own time to do training, because training for pole is something I'm really passionate about as well, and I don't want to lose that just because I own a studio or whatever. And so I kind of always set myself a goal of not doing more than 20 hours a week. So at every point of the way, it's definitely been a challenge, but I think it's also what created this amazing business system, because I had to hire people into all the roles where it wasn't worth me doing those tasks, and I had to get very clear on what those roles were, and then very clear on how to train people up and how to kind of keep track of how they were performing in those roles and how each section of the business has been performing. So it's really forced me to systemize everything and create this business model that I know works. And I think that's why the franchise systems are doing so well, is because I had to personally keep this business running without me in it too much. So I think that's been a challenge, because every step of the way it's been very tempting to drag myself back into it. And when I decided to franchise, it was one of the things I had a big discussion with my husband over, and I was like, if we're going to do this, then I'm going to try and make sure I don't do it without me sucking back into the business and losing all my time again, because the goal and having this end goal of 100 franchises or whatever it is is awesome, but if I don't enjoy the process, then there's absolutely no point. And I think that's what I really learned from back in the day, that you've got to enjoy your life and enjoy the whole process. The goal is just pointless otherwise. So yeah, the time management's been a big one for me. And every step of the way, almost every week, I have to reassess what I'm doing and just be like, is this worth it for me to be doing, or can I get someone else doing this? And then how do I measure that? And then, yeah, not being in the business, just making sure there was a good way to keep track of how the business was doing, so I didn't lose sight of everything. So my time's pretty much just been in meetings now, which is slightly frustrating, but also like it's good because I can kind of basically say, this is what I want happening and tell me what's going on, and then it goes and gets done. And I'm no longer bottlenecking any of the processes. But it has meant that it's been a longer time before I got to draw a decent income from the studio. I guess was another challenge, but that was a decision I made that I would prefer, and it's worked out in the long run really well, I think, going down that path. Yeah, I don't know if that was a challenge, but it's definitely been something that I've kept to focus on, and yeah, ended up being a positive.
And I think you've highlighted two really important things there for everyone listening to this call, because there's often a fear of growing bigger and having to do more. You know, if I get even busier, if I'm more successful, or even if I start to become successful, well, I have to do even more work, because that perception often holds people back. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people listening to this going, yeah, well, that's where I'm at. I've just, the thought of growing and having to do more, I'm already doing so many hours. So I think there's a couple of things that I love what you were saying. You had to structure. You already had one child who's not, they're not 15 yet. They're only 3. So you need to, there's still a lot of time requirement there. And so you had to structure the business in a way that you weren't doing so many of those tasks that so many business owners just take on board themselves, because they don't want to pay for someone else to do it.
Yeah.
There's not quite enough money in the business anyway, so they end up getting stuck doing administrative tasks and menial things. So you being able to work on a system for that's really powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely paid off. And I think it was really scary, because you look at the income and you're like, oh, I don't really know if I can afford this person. But it's always such an investment. And every time I've done it, it's paid off in the long run, because it's allowed the business. And I think that is why things have happened so fast, because it hasn't been down to one person doing it. I've built an amazing team and pretty much quadrupled like the amount of stuff that can get done, rather than me doing everything. But yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, I guess, holding on to that same kind of control while giving it up, that balance there.
Well, that's a great point. I wanted to touch on that, because there's a lot of people who, again, are stuck because they've either tried to get someone else to do it in the future and it hasn't worked, and the whole, well, I'll just do it myself then. I can't trust anyone else, I'll just do it. But you really made a line in the sand there and refused to be dragged back into it, as you said. How has that been for you? Because you have to give up some control while you're trying to keep some control as well.
Yeah. And I think it was hard to start with, whereas now I don't know if I've gone the other way and I've got really lazy with things. But definitely the people I've hired, and I've found some amazing people who have strengths in areas that I don't. So it's been really good to be able to take those things that I know I'm not good at and give them to someone who I know is really good at it. And then I kind of just focus on the big picture. And then again, we've come up with a really nice way of basically tracking the business in numbers. So I can open a spreadsheet and everything from all over, like, areas of the business are collated in this one spreadsheet, and then they're color coded like green, orange, red. So it's very easy to get a quick snapshot of how the business is doing, and then jump straight in and talk to the person whose area that is, and still kind of keep that control that way. And again, that's worked really well for the franchisees as well, because not only can they build a company that they will eventually get out of, or they start out of it completely, but we can talk to them every couple of weeks and go over these numbers with them, and it can make everyone aware of what's going on and how it's tracking, and just make things a bit kind of proactive rather than reactive with the businesses, which is really important.
So let me just clarify here. You've gone from essentially a hobby where you know numbers. And I remember on our first call when I was saying, oh, well, how many leads? You're like, a few.
I don't know what a lead was.
And to now knowing the numbers, to the nth degree, how much has that? Because there'll be a lot of people are scared of the numbers, right? I mean, we either don't want to track them, or maybe we don't want them to look the way they look because they're not going to look good. How has that been empowering for you, just knowing exactly what all the metrics are in the business?
Oh, it's so important, because that is exactly what has allowed me to step out. If I didn't have that, I would have lost control of what was going on. But yeah, being able to look at a single spreadsheet, and we're adding to numbers all the time, and adapting what those numbers are and tweaking what we need to know. And it's definitely an ongoing process of, there might be a line in that spreadsheet that we don't look at, so we get rid of that, and then we think what will be useful. But yeah, that is fully what has allowed both me to step out of the business as much as I have, but also with this whole franchise process to give confidence to the owners that both they can look back at what every other studio is doing, they can compare their studio against all the other studios, and we can fully see what's going on at a high level and where the problems are. So yeah, it's been everything. And I had no idea on the numbers when I first started, and now I live by them. And I have just learned to love spreadsheets and make them work. We've tried a few different systems for tracking them and dashboards, but we just keep going back to spreadsheets. It's just easier to manipulate them and work with them, I think.
Well, I guess once and yours is an exciting story, adventures we keep saying, because you have taught yourself just really how to recognise the numbers and how to enjoy them and not for them to become a nightmare, which is awesome. Yeah. You mentioned another thing there as well, which tends to happen to a lot of people in the industry, is that their own personal health ends up being sacrificed for the business, and for them to grow, they end up just doing more and more and more hours, which obviously is what you didn't go down that path, which is why it's so impressive, your growth and dramatic growth. And just recently, and I do want to bring this up because it's really important. On the weekend recently, you competed in the national championships, right? The New Zealand.
Yeah, one of the nationals. There's a few now. They're growing up.
And how long has it been since you competed?
So it's been 2 years since I last competed internationally, and 5 years since I last competed in New Zealand.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you've a bit over 3 years ago, you've got 2 facilities, you've just had a baby, life is going crazy. You've now grown incredibly in that period, both your family with having another child and also now getting to 6 facilities. And in the meantime, you've also maintained your health and fitness. And after not competing in New Zealand for the last 5 years, you competed on the weekend and won.
Yeah, against all the 20-year-olds.
I mean, that is so amazing, Karry. And I know there'll be a lot of people on this call thinking, how did she do that? I mean, I can't even get my own workout in once or twice because I've got so much stuff to do. Yeah. Whereas I think that, as you said, being able to delegate efficiently and making some of those smart decisions, getting people to help you so that you develop you've only got some certain strengths that you're aware of now, and you get other people who've got strengths in the areas that you don't. So that being said, and that's super impressive, congratulations. I was so excited for you when you said that to me earlier. What would your lessons learned be, your favourite lessons learned over the last sort of 3 and a bit years of working with MPE? What are the biggest takeaways for you, Karry?
Oh my God, there's so many. I think definitely not being scared to take risks with the business. And I guess a big part of that is keeping it in perspective. I don't know if this is quite the right thing I should be saying, but I've always kind of thought every big step I've taken, I've always kind of thought, worst case scenario, lose the business, go bankrupt. And then I'm like, well, that's not actually that bad. I've still got my family. We can rent a house if I have to sell a house, and I'll go work at McDonald's or something. We'll do something new. It's just what I'm doing right now with my life, and it's working right now. And if tomorrow it stops working, I've had a good time. And so that's kind of allowed me to take a few big risks with the business and push a little bit further. And I'm not saying you have to be stupid about things, but it's not everyone that can take those kind of risks. And I think if you can be that type of person who can, then that's what's going to put you ahead of other people and grow the business. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of scary stuff happening, but also kind of taking your own advice, because like you were saying before with the health and fitness stuff, I mean, I'm sure everyone listening to this call has said that to their own clients when they're, you know, trying to keep a member, and that member's saying, I need to cancel my membership because I'm really stressed out at work, I don't have the time. And I say over and over, like, to our members who say that, like, the first thing you let go of is your health and fitness, when really that should be the first thing you hold on to. When things are getting stressful, like, you need to make that a priority. So if you're saying that to someone else, you know the answer, you just got to listen to it yourself. Like, and it can be very counterintuitive to hire someone when you don't think you can, but again, it just allows things to move at a quicker pace as long as you hold on to those people well and treat them well, and, you know, you do good hires. I guess that's the other big lesson. Oh, there's so many lessons, I don't even know if there's been one. It's just like an endless thing of stuff that I've learned, and some things have worked, some things haven't, but definitely for me, hiring people and creating an amazing team has been my biggest achievement, I think. Yeah, let's let it grow.
And that's been impressive as well. I mean, I know that, you know, we have challenges with employees and with staff, because that's just part of running a business, and it's a part of managing and working with people. Some of those challenges that you had when it was more of a hobby, you know, you still face occasionally, but you've got such a great communication process now with all of your team and all of your franchisees as well, that they continually feel supported, they feel recognised, they get rewarded. You've really built not only a community for your clients and your franchisees as clients, but you've built a community for the franchisees and your staff members as well, so that they're just loving the business as much as you are, right?
Yeah, I hope so. And that's definitely been another challenge, like, because obviously as the team has grown, trying to remember those ones in the wider circle that I don't necessarily see every day. But we've built it into the system that, you know, we have the instructor socials every 2 months, and all our franchisees have to do the same, because it is important that you have an amazing environment for your work. For your workers as well. I mean, that's who face your students and your clients every day. So if they're not loving the job, then, you know, they're not putting out a good vibe there. So yeah, we've basically, everything we've done around that, we have tried to systemize and actually build it into processes of, like, how do you treat your staff and what are you doing with them? How are you rewarding them? And it's definitely been an area that we've had to work with, because we've grown so fast that bringing them along with us and making sure they didn't get scared by how businessy we got was a big part of our journey, or still is, really, because it's a very different place now as to what our instructors signed up to 4 years ago. So yeah, that communication has had to be really strong and open, and not letting them get too scared that we're getting too corporate or anything. Yeah.
It's an interesting, isn't it, when we talk about recognition and reward being the two most motivating factors when it comes to staff, and probably the biggest challenge and the downfall a lot of those sort of more small to medium businesses trying to get bigger is a lack of communication from the vision of the owner all the way down to, you know, that newbie staff member who's just trying to learn how to do a good job. And I think what you said earlier is fantastic as part of that, because you had to remove yourself from the business. You had to put the right systems in and using the MPE tools and processes so that you could empower your team to perform in the business just as if it was their own. And then you can manage the numbers and do the things that you do well, and be in the meetings and support that continued growth and really drive that longer and bigger vision, knowing that they've got the right tools and systems to use themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess the thing with that is the newer instructors and the newer teammates that we've brought on, we've gotten much better at onboarding them the right way and having those sit downs with me so they get the vision. And I think it really highlights just the better way of doing it is, because our instructors who've been with us for longer, who didn't get any of that when they first joined, are definitely more, not scared, but struggling more with how it is now. And it's that just highlights the difference between onboarding people correctly and giving them the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. Well, look, it's been amazing to watch your journey. I know this is just the start because you've got some bigger plans too, right? I'm not sure whether we're allowed to talk about that, but some continued growth, not just with the existing six, right?
Yeah, well, I think New Zealand is only so big, and I definitely don't want to step on any toes of current studios that are open here. And there's only so many cities that can sustain, a lot of studios. So we're definitely going to outgrow New Zealand soon. So starting kind of early next year or the end of this year, then I want to start looking internationally for some more studio spaces over there. I think this business model is just so good, and we're really proving that here in New Zealand now and getting our numbers right. That I want to, provide this lifestyle to more people. And so I think to do that, moving over to kind of the States or UK will be where we start looking next. And I'm really excited about that because that's going to be, just open up so many more opportunities for people and see this pole dancing thing grow.
Yeah, and create that community. It's fantastic to see your development and growth into that worldwide vision. It's going to be very exciting, and you've certainly done incredible things in the last 3 and a bit years. I can only imagine what's going to happen in another, not literally 2, because you just keep getting quicker and quicker. This isn't slowing down, which is awesome. So I know we've spent some time talking about a bunch of things just to sort of bring all this in for a landing here. What would your advice be for others who are listening to this story and maybe have a business already, or maybe thinking about growing one and developing one, or wanting to really take theirs to the next level? What would your advice be for those who are listening to this story, Karry?
Oh God, again, it's where do I start? I think a big part of it, definitely for me, was just to believe what was possible and to always think bigger. Because when you're in that struggling space, all you're trying to do is get out of it and have that one studio that works. And that's awesome. But I think if you kind of 10x your goal, as good old Grant Cardone would say, then it makes everything just seem a bit more achievable. So, if you kind of think, one studio, it's doable for anyone. It's the same process. Like, it really is just a blueprint model that you follow, and it will work for any business. You just need to know what that blueprint is and that formula is. And that's what NPE have shown me. Like, it's the same things for everyone. You look at the numbers, you do the right things, and your business will work. And it's really not magic or luck or anything. You just follow the process. And then as soon as you stop thinking that the big highlight is one successful studio and you start thinking bigger, then the one successful one isn't scary anymore. It's totally doable. And you just need to change that mindset a bit. Yeah. Follow the instructions. Isn't that what you guys say?
That's exactly.
I've got that written somewhere in one of my NPE notebooks.
Absolutely. Client success principle number 6, follow the dang instructions. You hit the nail on the head. Well done, Karry.
Well, it might have a number.
It's awesome. And it is super exciting to see your growth. And I love what you've been able to achieve. And you've been such an amazing part of our community as well. And, you're inspiring so many other people to think bigger and to have a clear vision themselves and to have a bigger goal that they're working towards as well. So, look, thank you so much for your time today. I know there's going to be a bunch of people inspired and probably wondering how they can get in contact with you as well for those opportunities down the track, which would be great to see. We love having you in the community, and we can't wait to continue to support and help you to achieve that big vision and those big goals that you've got. So thanks again, Karry. You really are a true inspiration.
Oh, thanks, Rick. Well, yeah, thanks to you guys. This is where I am. I wouldn't be here without NPE. That's 100% true.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure we'll get updated in a few months' time because you'll probably have put a 1 at the front of those 6. But congrats on what you've done so far, and you enjoy the rest of your time with your beautiful family, and we'll speak to you again very soon, Karry.
Thanks, Rick. See ya.
Take care.
Bye.